Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unity of New Westminster's celebration service. Please join in the singing of our opening song today.
I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. And if you ask me who am I am wisdom, I am light, I am more than meets the eye, I cannot be defined. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought I have the power to change my life. And if you ask me what am I am beauty, I am joy, I am more than meets the eye, I cannot be defined. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts I have the power to change my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts I have the power to change my life. I can choose to be the light that brightens someone's darkest night, and so much more than meets the eye, I cannot be defined. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts I have the power to change my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thought that changes things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts I have the power to change my life. I have the power to change my life. I have the power to change my life.
Welcome back. I am Reverend Rhona Segarra, and it is my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the community at Unity of New Westminster in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. We would love to stay connected with you, so please subscribe to our newsletter or like us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you can always know what's going on in our community. The Unity movement offers ideas for full and abundant living. We draw on the teachings of Jesus, who we consider our primary way shower and example. And we honor that there is universal wisdom to be found in faith traditions, in song, in story, in poetry, all over the planet. We respect and honor every person's right to choose their own life path. All are welcome here. All are worthy here. All are celebrated here. We open our service today in prayer. I gratefully acknowledge that I speak to you on the traditional and unceded territory of the Semiahmoo First Nation. And we give thanks to First Nation peoples everywhere for their custody of this beautiful land. We give thanks for our connection one with each other. That connection that happens whether we are in each other's physical presence or not. That connection that binds us all together. We acknowledge that there is only one presence, that there is only one power, that power that is understood by many names, many faces, and many paths. And we affirm that regardless of the name, the face, or the path of our understanding, that we are one human family. And it is in that knowledge of our oneness that we send a blessing for love, for peace, for contentment to every being on this planet, to every being, regardless of all the labels that threaten to divide us. We are one. And for this knowledge, for this intention, and for the power that we have to bless, we give thanks. Amen.
If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. Give and receive. Give and receive. If love is why you're here, may you be an open channel. If love is why you're here, may you give and then receive. If love is why you're here, may you be an open channel. If love is why you're here, may you give and then receive. Give
Have you ever said something that you didn't believe to be true just so you could fit in? Have you ever kept quiet when you could have spoken up just so you could fit in? Have you ever joined forces with someone or someones against some other person or persons just so you could fit in? I will venture a guess that most of us have done some of these things at least once or twice in our lives. What if we could become more comfortable with belonging to ourselves and being in integrity with ourselves, rather than adjusting who we are and sometimes hiding what we believe just so we can fit in with a person or a group or a workplace or a family or a spiritual or religious group? The author and social researcher Brene Brown calls this invitation to believe and belong to ourselves braving the wilderness, because it can feel so risky to stand up and move away from the in crowd, that it's as if we move into a wilderness, a place which can be lonely and uncertain, a place where we don't rely on the comfort and protection and connection of the group, because we can't rely on that protection and comfort. And so a place which requires us to stand alone and be brave and be vulnerable. Brene Brown wrote a book called Braving the Wilderness: The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone. The quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone. And in this book, she writes, and I quote, "True belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness." True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And in this book, she shares the results of her study of over 200,000 data points on the subject of belonging and fitting in. And from that research, she has identified 4 main ideas for us to consider if we want to move from changing who we are to being who we are. Today, we explore one of those ideas and why it's important, and how we can take a step from fitting in and adjusting who we are to braving the wilderness and being who we are. To move from fitting in with others to belonging to ourselves. Why do we want to differentiate between fitting in and belonging? Why is it so important? Because we all want to be authentic and true to ourselves. And at the same time, we have a human desire, a human need to belong. And the pull between these two desires sometimes leads us to sacrifice our values, our authenticity, as we feel that connection and safety and comfort of the group that we belong to. But when we sacrifice who we are in order to belong, we aren't being true to ourselves. So we don't truly belong. Instead, we play a role. That role takes energy, and that energy deficit leads to a sense of disquiet in ourselves. At times, I think we fear being found out, that we fear that people will discover that we're an imposter, and that then we'll be kicked out of the group, kicked out of the tribe. And these fears are hardwired in us from generation to generation to generation. And I'm sure that many of us can identify with the feeling of discomfort that comes from not fitting in. What was really interesting, though, is that the research showed that people who organize themselves into committees or into communities which hold the same beliefs, that organization does not necessarily result in more communication, more connection, and more belonging. Rather, surprisingly, it results in a significant increase in loneliness. So the more that we adjust who we are to fit in, the more lonely we actually feel. And when we're lonely or we feel isolated, then our human tendency is to protect ourselves by hunkering into our own silo. We have less empathy for others. We are more defensive and more numb to feelings, both our own and the feelings of others. In the long run, fitting in doesn't serve us well. And our goal is to learn how to be present with people without sacrificing who we are. We want to learn how to fully belong to ourselves and at the same time remain connected with others who may think differently than we do. And today I want to look at one of the four main ideas that Brown suggests in her book, an idea which will help us brave the wilderness as we step out of fitting in and into belonging to ourselves. And the idea that she shares as a chapter in her book is called "People are hard to hate close up. Move in." I would add, people are hard to disagree with close up. Move in. People are hard to dislike close up. Move in. People are hard to overlook close up. Move in. Why do we want to move closer? Because when we move closer, it helps to counter our tendency to organize and sort people and then label them as either in or out of our group, our tribe, our community. It is one of the most common fitting in behaviors that we can fall into, this us versus them mentality, where people who aren't part of our known and comfortable group are labeled as other and then treated differently. And sometimes we know people in those other groups personally, and we like those people. And so then we consider them to be exceptions to the group, and we contentedly continue to slap that negative label and sideline the rest of their community, essentially denying them their right to choice, their right to respect, their right to humanness. And so our first step in moving in is to notice how often we label people in this non-human or less than human way. I call it dehumanizing, and I have spoken about the dangers of dehumanizing other groups, other people before. The idea that people are labels first and people second is a dangerous one. Sometimes we never actually see the people. We only see their label. But as my friend Barb Good says, Labels are for jars, not for people. Labels can hurt. And I remember that something similar to me happened, and some of you may have heard this story already because it was one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. I used to work in Vancouver, and I would take the bus into work every day. I was late one morning and running for the bus, and the bus driver looked at me, made eye contact, and drove off anyway. To him, I was just another fare. There was no human behind that label. And I remember the feeling of, you don't matter. And I felt hurt at first. Then that led to anger, which is another form of hurt, which led to some seriously uncharitable and definitely unministerial words about that driver. And then when I calmed down and thought about it a little bit more clearly, it led to a period of reflection for me. And I began to wonder how often I do the same to others as had been done to me. How often did I see other people as their label, as their role, as their religious beliefs, their nationality, their gender, their career choice, without seeing each of them as a human being with thoughts, feelings, emotions, and goals of their own. People are eachnesses within the allness of every group. Each person is an individual. Each group is made up of individuals. And it's not just the people that we know and like who are the exceptions to our negative labels. Despite differences in outlook or socioeconomic status or lifestyle or any other label, each person is a person, not a label. We are people first, labels second. And Barb, my friend Barb, who many of you know, wrote a book called The Good Life. And there is a section which describes this perfectly. When I first read it in her book, it landed with me so powerfully that I have kept it on my phone. It is entitled Changes in Labels Over the Years. And Barb writes, and I quote, defective became insane, became retarded, became mentally retarded, became mentally handicapped, became mentally challenged, became developmentally delayed, became intellectually challenged, became people with mental handicaps, became people with disabilities. See how long it took for people to come before disability. End quote. Barb then goes on to say how she now prefers the term people with diverse abilities. As Barb says, and I think of often, labels are for jars, not for people. The first step, notice how you apply labels to people. Next, let's question and challenge the status quo. Is it fair for everyone? Often our accepted norms are based on a double standard, where certain privileges are okay for part of our population, but not for all of it. And our goal is to guard against non-inclusive, discriminatory practices. In a fitting in culture, we have a tendency to do things as they have always been done, and to treat people as they have historically been treated. It's easier for us. It doesn't push any boundaries or stretch us in any way. And it is also behavior that dehumanizes people and makes them less than. Let's change that. Braving the wilderness encourages us to challenge our assumptions and question whether they are fair for everyone. Last week, we celebrated International Women's Day. And it wasn't that long ago that women didn't have a right to vote or to go to school. It wasn't that long ago that people of color were not allowed to use the same bathrooms as people who had pale skin. It wasn't that long ago that people with diverse abilities were institutionalized and even sterilized. It wasn't that long ago that people who were the first peoples of this amazing country were ripped away from their families and sent away to residential institutions. All of these painful examples of the dehumanizing of our fellow brothers and sisters. Jesus, in chapter 25 of the book of Matthew, reminds us of our interconnectedness, that what we do or not do to the least of our brethren, we do to each other and to the creative power that is the God of our understanding. What we do to each other matters. What we don't do for each other matters. Remember Unity's first two principles. There is no spot that God is not, including us. A rising tide lifts all boats. When we add kindness and consideration into a system, it can have a ripple effect and uplift us all. The late, great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was the second female Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court, said that she was sometimes asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And she would say, when there are 9. That's the number of people on the Supreme Court in the United States. And people would be shocked. She said, there'll be enough when there are 9. But she said, but there'd been 9 men, and nobody ever raised a question about that. It was clever. It's a reminder that the rules can't be different for different people. And to check whether we're allowing a double standard, let's look at the unexamined and accepted norm, then put our names in the other's place and see if we'd be okay with that. Question the status quo and insist that there be no unequal or dehumanizing treatment. And then, when we've realized that we've applied labels and we've recognized that we've allowed double standards, the next step is to be willing to be a dissenter, to be willing to stand against the normal way and dissent, which means disagree, and encourage change about things which are important. Our example and way shower, Jesus, was a dissenter on many occasions. He touched people physically who had leprosy and who were considered unclean. He healed on the Sabbath. He challenged the scribes and the Pharisees, and he actually called them hypocrites multiple times. One example, he challenged them because they focused on things that he considered lightweight, rather than focusing on things that he thought were important. And in Matthew 23, verse 23, we read that Jesus says this: "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. It is these you ought to have practiced without neglecting the others." Isn't that great? Yes, we can take care of these little things that matter, but we can also be absolutely blind to things that matter more, such as treating each other fairly and justly, being merciful to each other, being faithful to our principles of love and respect and equality. Jesus suggested that the scribes and Pharisees become better at these important things because they matter. They were dehumanizing. And he wasn't afraid to voice his dissenting opinion and disagreement for the way things were. Thinking back to Justice Ginsburg, she was known to write dissenting opinions on matters of the law. They are called dissents, written disagreements. And she said this: "Dissents speak to a future age. It is not simply to say my colleagues and I are wrong and I would do it this way. But the greatest dissents become court opinions, and gradually over time, their views become the dominant view. That is the dissenters' hope, that they are writing not for today, but for tomorrow." That same thought can apply to us. When we see an injustice, we can sow the seed of dissent, even if it seems too big to have an effect at once. Change can begin slowly with just an idea, and we can be the voice of that dissenting opinion, standing up for that which is unjust. The actions of courageous people who dissent against the accepted way, people like Jesus, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like Barb Good, those who take a stand and who with their bravery force us to challenge our assumptions. These actions inspire us to evolve into more compassionate, more aware people. Without dissenters who speak up against labeling, we perpetuate labels which make one group of people less than or greater than others. Now, I recognize it can feel risky to stand up and say, we are labeling and this isn't kind, or this isn't just, or this implies that we're superior to these other people. But maybe, just maybe, our willingness to withstand the discomfort and fear and risk of isolation, our willingness to be a dissenter, will seed a new discussion, one which will inspire us to change the accepted way and to rehumanize those who we've labeled. Remind us that we are one human family. Sometimes the person whose opinion that we need to change is our own. The labels that we want to dissolve are labels that we ourselves have created. Remember that Brene Brown's first strategy in braving the wilderness is that it's hard to hate people up close. And so to dissolve the labels, we want to move in, to see the humanity beneath the label. And there is such wisdom in this advice. It helps us to overcome our own resistance. When I was at seminary, one of my assignments was to identify a denomination that I had an allergy to. And for many reasons that relate to my life in my early 20s and late teens, I wrote down Jehovah's Witnesses. I had an allergy to people who were Jehovah's Witnesses. A few weeks later, as part of this assignment or this class, we had 2 weeks prior, we had identified the denomination with the allergy. 2 weeks later, we received the follow-up assignment, which was to go and speak to a representative of that group. My first reaction was to run away, to try and change my answer, anything, so I wouldn't need to go near them. Of course, being a good student on the academic level and recognizing at a deeper level that this was an area that needed my attention, I overcame my own resistance, made the phone call, made the appointment, and went to visit them. And of course, I was warmly welcomed. I was honest, told them my concerns, that I was nervous, and they were kind. And they shared some of their philosophy. Did I become a Jehovah's Witness that day? No. Was there some healing for me? Definitely. Can I disagree with some of the approaches that denomination holds and still understand some of their beliefs and still see their humanity? Absolutely. A few weeks after that visit, in fact, I ran into the person who hosted me at a coffee shop, and we greeted each other as friends. Move closely, move in, challenge our assumptions, and connect with the human. Change our own minds. As we move into the wilderness where we choose our own values and we belong to ourselves rather than sacrifice who we are and then fit in, let us notice when we label people as other. Labels are for jars, not for people. Let us then challenge our assumptions. Do we allow a double standard? Would we be okay if we or our family or our friends were treated in this way? And if we see that there is inequity, then let us be willing to be the dissenter, the voice in the wilderness that calls for change. And if in doubt, or if it's something that is a personal concern for us, a personal allergy for us, then let us move in. Let us get to know people and ask questions and have the courage to be curious. People are hard to hate close up. Move in. You'll live in integrity with yourself. You'll live in peace, and you'll honor all of our humanity. belonging to ourselves means that we don't change who we are, but rather that we step into being who we are. Labels are for jars, not for people. Move in. I bless you. Please note that starting March 21st, our weekly prayer service time will change to 10:30 on Mondays. This schedule will work better for several of our members. All are welcome to join us as we share a time of connection and renewal, and as we hold people in prayer. At this service, we check in and we share with each other. We have a time of guided prayer, and we read the names of the people on our prayer list. It is an uplifting and restful experience. All are welcome. Mondays at 10:30, beginning on March 21st. Today is our annual membership meeting. It will be held after the service on Zoom and in person, so it will be a live hybrid session. It will begin at about 12:15, and so I would encourage you to join us for that. Stay on Zoom or hop onto Zoom. The link is on your screen, and we will also be in person at the sanctuary. So 12:15 today. Some of you may know that I teach computer skills to people who are entering the workplace. And I will offer similar training for those in our community who are interested in improving their computer skills. We'll begin with two 2-hour sessions on Microsoft Word. And then depending on the pace and how that works, we may just do 1 2-hour session on PowerPoint, and then after that, an hour of Excel the following week. We'll do these on Tuesday evenings from 7 till 9 p.m., beginning March 22nd, and then March 29th for Word, and then April 5th for PowerPoint, and then Excel on April 12th. Registration will be required because I need to be able to send you emails with some practice files so that you'll be able to follow along with me as I demonstrate some of these amazing things that can be done on the computer. So I hope you join us. It is by donation, open to all, any skill level. It's beginning at the end of March, March the 22nd. Gentle reminder that we have a food pantry, which is available and open to anyone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you know someone who would benefit from using our food pantry, please share that information. And if you are willing to donate to the food pantry, please bring your collections of canned goods so that we can put them into the food pantry for people to take with them as they need. Give what you can, take what you feel comfortable taking. We are grateful for the financial support which we receive from those who enjoy our programs. With the pandemic, some of our expenses have been lessened and some of our expenses don't go away. So thank you for your generosity, which supports our ministry. We give a portion of our income to organizations that do amazing work in our community, both locally and in our province. So your gifts make a difference in lives. We welcome donations by credit card, check, cash, or our preferred method, Interac e-transfer to Unity of New Westminster at gmail.com. Interac is free of service charges. Thank you. Now, please bring to your hands, to your hearts, or to your minds something that you are grateful for as we give thanks and remember how much we have to be grateful for. We are so blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And we come to the end of another service. I thank you for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed your experience with us today. I wish you all a very, very blessed week. Goodbye, everybody.
And let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as Creator, family are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. You are the light of God. You are the love of God. You are the power of God. You are the presence of God. Wherever you are, God is. You are the light of God. You are the love of God. You are the power of God. You are the presence of God. Wherever you are, God is. We are the light of God. We are the love of God. We are the power of God. We are the presence of God.